Sweet. And I got like 6 people in here. Okay. Say hi to the rest of the class. Oh, that's not turning that way. Okay. This is your classmates that are gold. Yes. Hi. Okay. They're a great class. I got to tell you. Okay. All right. So we're talking about the First Amendment, the Establishment Clause. Can't create a religion, but you have the free exercise of it. Okay. What was I talking about before that happened?
The first textbook.
Yeah. Did that. And so in the 1940s, people began to reject the idea because you have other people that live here that are not Christians, right? You have Jews came here early. You have Catholics, you have Protestants, right? You have different sects of Christianity. And so people began to question this idea. In 1962, you have a Supreme Court case, Engel versus Vitale. Okay, and this said that you could not use the government to promote religion. And so if you're a teacher, you cannot promote religion in your school. If you're in administration, you can't do prayer over the intercom because you are, in a sense, trying to establish or promote a certain religion. So in 1962, basically, prayer in school ended. Now, have you guys ever seen the movie God Is Not Dead? God Is Not Dead 2? It's pretty good. I mean, all those movies are a little bit cheesy. They're not high production stuff, but they're pretty good. Anyhow, let's say a student, I'm going to talk about Mr. O'Connor. Mr. O'Connor, Tom O'Connor, C's guy, some of you might know the O'Connor family. He used to teach where Mr. Swords is right now, next door. He is now a government teacher at Northwest High School. So I'm going to use him as an example. So if a student comes to Mr. O'Connor, say he sees Mr. O'Connor wearing a crucifix, and he says, hey, can you tell me about your God? He can't do that. Okay, he cannot promote religion. Now, in the 1970s, there were a lot of court cases because there's a lot of states that said, hey, man, we still want prayer in school. So the Supreme Court, in a case called Lemon versus Kurtzman, developed the Lemon test. Okay, and this basically lays out 3 different restrictions on what schools can do or what states can do. Okay, now the only federal money or state money that Bishop Carroll gets is for free and reduced lunches. Okay, we've also been able to get some of the CARES money. I don't know if you guys know what the CARES money is, and that is from the lockdown. So the federal government is sending a lot of money to states, and they're allowing that to go to religious institutions as well because they shut them down. So my wife's up. So did I tell you guys I'm not Catholic? I'm not Catholic. Okay, I'm a Protestant. I'm a Presbyterian. Okay, so my wife's an elder at our church, and giving since the lockdown to our church, money tithe is down 50%. Okay, so I mean, churches are being affected. I know the diocese has definitely been affected. So they are eligible for some CARES money. All right, so like these computers that they gave the teachers and stuff, I think they bought it with that money. Okay, but that's a special circumstance. Okay, like we wouldn't be able to use public money to put you guys on a bus to run bus routes and have the government pay for you to come here on a bus. We couldn't get the government to pay for that. That would violate the Lemon test. Okay, if a student wanted to do a prayer at Northwest over the intercom, this is student-led, not the teacher, not the government employee. You couldn't do it because the intercom system is paid for with government money. Now, if a student at Northwest High School wanted to get up in the stands before a football game and say, hey, everybody, let's say the Lord's Prayer for the safety of the athletes, you could do that. That's the free exercise. If you're sitting in your desk right now at Northwest High School, are you allowed to pray? Yes. You just can't disrupt the class. You know what I mean? You say it silently to yourself. There is prayer in school. It just can't be carried out by the government. Does that make sense? Now, sometimes we take this to insane ends. And you've all heard the phrase separation of church and state, okay, or a wall of separation. That's not in the Constitution. That's in a letter that was written by Thomas Jefferson, who did not write the Constitution. He wrote what? The Declaration. He was in France while the Constitution was being written. Okay? So he didn't write it. But the churches were worried about this new Constitution and the power that it would have over the churches. And so to ease their fear, Jefferson wrote a letter to the Danbury Baptist Association. And he said, there's a wall of separation between the church and the state. The state cannot control the church. They can't tell you what you can preach. You understand? That's the wall that Jefferson was talking about. The Supreme Court has taken that letter, put it in their own context, and basically used that wall of separation here. So we have removed God from the public square. Okay? And since we've done that in 1962, what's happened to our culture? I mean, turn on the television. Have you guys ever watch MTV? Now, I used to watch it when they showed music videos, way back in the 80s. They don't show music videos. They show Teen Mom, right? Or they show Jersey Shore. You guys watch that Bachelor show? Bachelorette? That stuff will rot your brain. It's not normal. Okay? But they're normalizing this behavior. Right? There was that one show, I just heard about it, I didn't watch it, where the guy didn't want to have sex before they got married. Remember that one, anybody? And everybody shamed it. You know what I mean? He's doing the right thing and he's getting shamed. Fewer and fewer Americans believe in God every year. And I'm talking, guys, in the last 30 years, that number has dropped dramatically. When you lose God, you lose truth. So let me give you an example. I'm going to tell you right now. I'm speaking to Catholic school students in a Christian environment. Premarital sex is a sin. It's wrong. You can burn in hell for eternity for it. Sex is meant for marriage. Now, my buddy Mr. O'Connor believes that, but he can't tell his students that. What he can tell his students at Northwest is, well, if you have premarital sex, there's a chance you're going to get pregnant, and your life is going to become very difficult, especially if you don't have family support. Your child's chances of success in life are greatly diminished if they are not born into a two-parent household. You can get STDs and the other consequences that come with it. Okay? But if a student asks Mr. O'Connor, he can't say it's wrong. Because if a student asks him, Mr. Ebright, why is it wrong? He can't answer that question without invoking God. Because without God and the rules written out for us in the Bible, in the Christian Bible, guys, it's a societal norm. It's fine. Okay? You can marry, 15-year-olds and 14-year-olds, like Muhammad did, 9-year-olds. There's nothing wrong with it if there's no God. You following me? So when people don't have truth, They get lost. Now listen, the founders of this country, when they wrote this Constitution, Madison really talks about this a lot, is it's for a moral people. A moral people can rule over themselves, govern themselves. But a people that don't have morality cannot govern themselves. They need to be governed. You need more government control over people if they don't know the difference between right and wrong, between good and evil. And so as we lose our objective truth, and you guys have studied objective truth, yes? Some affirmation's good, like a head shake, a nod, yes, okay? Listen, without objective truth, anything goes. So, how do we fix that? Can you force morality on people? You can expose them to it and allow them to choose it. But if people don't get it at home, guys, we have 50, 60 million people living in poverty that don't believe in God. Look at our cities. Chicago this weekend. Like 70 people shot, 10 people killed. The sanctity of life is being diminished in this country because people don't believe in God. They don't believe in hell. And I fear going to hell. I don't want to go to hell. I've heard some of the religion teachers here talk about what it's like. I don't want to live in that. So, you guys follow me on this? So, is it too late, though? I mean, it's 2020. We have a lot of people that don't believe in God. We have a lot of Muslims. We have Jews. We have atheists. We have Hindus, Buddhists. What kind of prayer are we going to have in school? To the Almighty? Or, because you can't say Jesus. Now, you can have a Bible club in a public school, but it has to be all student-led. Teacher can't have anything to do with it. Okay? Kentucky passed a law that is allowing for elective classes, like Christianity class, electives that students can sign up for if they're interested. Guys, I wasn't raised in the church. I was baptized. I was born a Presbyterian, baptized a Presbyterian. By the age of 3, my dad said, we're not going to church anymore. So I was lost. And then I met a girl in college. She was a Methodist. No, she was Presbyterian. I married a Methodist. And I started going to church with her. And as proud as, I was saved. Okay? And it changed my life. We broke up. I kept going to church. Because I really felt a good connection to God and the Holy Spirit. Okay? And I want to keep that going. And so, and then I married a Methodist, and then we switched back to Presbyterian. Okay. Evangelical Presbyterian. Okay, you got to watch out for those people. Right? No, we share a lot in common. Okay, very few differences. Okay. Anyhow, I don't know. Is it too late? Do we need a revival in this country? If you've ever studied revivals, I mean, it would be great if we did, I think. If a lot of people came to Jesus. I don't care if they're Catholic or Protestant or whatever, it's good for society. So I don't know if it's too late, okay? But you need to know what your rights are. And guys, the only thing limits on religion that you have personally is it can't cause harm. Okay. Other than that, guys, you can practice black magic, voodooism, whatever you want. Okay. It's a free country. And it's awesome. Okay. This is awesome that we get to do what we're doing right here. Okay. We'll talk a little bit more about this issue when we talk about school choice as well. Okay. All right. So I don't know if you think, hey, it's better for society. Let's try and open the door to prayer in school again. If you think it's too late for that, you can say no. If you think it would be great for this country, you might want to say yes on it. I know if I would have had a teacher come to me, because I got in trouble. In the 8th grade, I got in trouble. I was hanging out with the wrong people. If I would have had a teacher take me under their arm and tell me about Jesus and what relationship with God can do for my life, that might have changed my life. I might have stayed out of some, I've never gotten in real bad trouble, but I might have stayed out of some of the situations that I had. What's wrong with a teacher reaching out to a kid and telling them about Jesus? I mean, teachers, have influence with kids. You know what I mean? That could be a positive thing. But the parents may not want it. If you're never exposed to Jesus, feel bad for people. Okay? All right. You decide. Moving on. Okay? Any questions on this? Yeah. These. Okay, so I can't tell you in detail, but it's like if you're promoting or putting down a religion, is one of them. The other is the entanglement of funds, like the busing situation. The free and reduced lunch things that we get here is from federal money, but that's all it is. It's to help kids. And I think just the promotion of religion. Yeah. Yeah. So there are certain things you can do and can't do. Yeah.
It's kind of like irrelevant, but the government doesn't favor like if there's like a Muslim-based school, they don't favor that. They don't give money to that.
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. But there is a school. I live out east. You guys ever drive on K96 by Woodlawn? Okay. There's a mosque there. I live really close to that. And they have a school there. So, yeah, they're doing the same thing we're doing. Okay. And then my kids went to CCA, Central Christian Academy at 29th and Rock. Great little school, Christian school. And a lot of those kids end up going to Trinity Academy out east, which is a good school too. Now, I'm glad my kids didn't go there. I'm glad my kids came here, even though we're not Catholic. The West Side, the people are much more down to earth. Okay, like Trinity over there, so it's a little holier than thou type of thing. Like people judge you. I don't like being judged, and I don't want to judge other people. You know what I mean? We all have the same goals. The same mission here, and people are pretty relaxed about it, I used to have an athletic director here that had a temper, I'm a coach, right? And he said, sometimes you got to cuss at him. I don't know if Mrs. Long, Coach Long ever, probably not. But you go out to the baseball field, you might hear some colorful language from time to time, okay? When they need it, okay? But if I was teaching at Trinity, there's no way in heck I could do that. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, you're fired. I don't want to live like that. We're human beings, okay? It works too sometimes when you yell at people. Like I had to yell at first hour today because one of them watched the video yesterday. I'm like, guys, you don't even know what's going on in this class. They're like, well, I couldn't find it. What? You know where to find it. It's on that things to do list, right? Shows up on there. It's on the calendar. It's in the assignments. Like 4 different places. All right, we're moving on. Okay. All right, try 14-year-olds as adults. Now, before you write anything, guys, this is for violent crime. This isn't for shoplifting or, toilet papering somebody's house. This is for like murder, rape, attempted murder. that sort of thing. Now, this being said, guys, I have read examples where 9-year-olds have been charged as adults for murder. Okay, so 14 is kind of like, I'm just picking a number that's kind of relevant, you guys would understand. So you got any 14-year-old siblings? Any of some of you? And you're only 3-4 years removed from being 14. But what a judge is going to want to know, does this person standing trial understand the consequences of their action? Okay, they're not mentally insane. Do they understand the consequences of harming another person? You guys ever hear of this video game called Grand Theft Auto? Oh my gosh. It's awful. Okay, so you take this 14-year-old kid's playing this Grand Theft Auto game 6 hours a day. The new version comes out. He needs $60 to buy the new game. He doesn't have it. But he learns some good stuff from the video game. So he goes and hangs out by an ATM with a baseball bat and waits for your grandmother to withdraw some money and then bashes her over the head with the bat, steals her money. She falls down, hits the curb, and dies. You got this little violent 14-year-old just took a baseball bat to an elderly person. Now, you got a choice. If you try them as a juvenile, they'll go to juvenile hall till they're 18, and then you let them go and hope that he won't do it again. Or you can try them as an adult. Now, you don't send 14-year-olds to adult prisons. So you don't have to worry about that. They go to juvie till they're 18, and then they're transferred to an adult facility, like El Dorado, where the Card Brothers are, where BTK is. Okay. Now, we don't do a very good job at reforming our inmates. I don't know if you guys ever heard of Boys Ranch. And you guys have run cross country ever out at Lake Afton, there's this big house out there. It's kind of a ranch, and they would take, youth that were in trouble with the law. Instead of juvie, they'd take them out there, help them work with the farm animals and stuff like that, and try and rehabilitate them. That's expensive. It's a lot more expensive than, building downtown with bars in it. Okay? And we don't invest in that as a society, in reforming our inmates. Besides that, you're putting a bunch of bad kids in the same place together, which makes it hard to reform them. Same with our adult prisons. Hard to reform them. So it's a question of, do you think a 14-year-old understands the consequences for hitting somebody, an elderly person, over the head with a baseball bat? And if so, you can try them as an adult. Now, that's second-degree murder. He didn't plan to kill grandma. If he had planned it and done it, that's first-degree premeditated capital murder, which you could be given the death penalty for in certain states, like Kansas, Texas, Arkansas. Okay. And you could try a 14-year-old for the death penalty in a premeditated case where they planned it and carried it out. So with second-degree murder, you're looking at that 14-year-old going 4 years in juvie and maybe 20 in adult prison. The older you get, the less violent you become. I can attest to that. I don't want to get in a fight because it hurts my body too much. No, physically, I'm not worried about getting hit as much as I'm worried about hurting myself in the process of the fight. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't want to play in the basketball game on Fat Tuesday, the senior faculty basketball game, because I know I'm going to hurt myself. I won't be able to walk for days. You become less violent as you get older. Okay? So, you want to lock them up? This is a violent young person. You let him out at 18, somebody else can be a victim of that person. You're going to put him away for 20 years after that. You decide. Okay, the way number 6 is worded, you got to be careful, okay? So it says, limit the number of gun control laws. That's what yours says? Yeah, okay. Limit the number of gun control laws. Okay, now I'm not going to write the Second Amendment up here. I'm just going to recite it to you. This is in the Constitution, all right? It says this, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of the free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Okay? Now, the reason they put that in there, you might remember something called the American Revolution, where a bunch of farmers, shopkeepers, lawyers, doctors, blacksmiths defeated the strongest military in the world with muskets. And there were also these things called Native Americans that they had to defend themselves against. Okay, so they said, we need to make sure that we're allowed to keep these guns so that if government ever becomes destructive of our rights, we can alter or abolish it. And that's in the Declaration of Independence. Okay, that's the reason they put it in there. Now it's 2020. We have the National Guard. They said a well-regulated militia. Does that mean the National Guard? Citizen soldiers, not individual gun ownership. That's what some people think about the Second Amendment. Okay? Look, this is the Wild West. We have more guns in this country per capita than anywhere but Switzerland. Where gun ownership is looked very favorably upon. Now, I did something this year during the lockdown that I hadn't done in my first 50 years on this planet. I bought a gun. Never owned one. I want to get one in case they decided not to let us have them anymore. Okay? I didn't grow up in that culture. If you guys don't mind me asking, raise your hand if you have a gun in your house. Okay. This is Kansas. People hunt. Okay? But people also have weapons for self-defense of their property and their families and themselves. Is this okay with you guys? I'm pretty far away from you. So, we have gun laws. Okay, you ever heard of Wyatt Earp? Oh, we're in Kansas. All right. The Wild West, right? So, Dodge City, Kansas. They make westerns about it. Doc Holliday, Billy the Kid, the Wild West, right? And so Wyatt Earp was hired to be the sheriff of Dodge City, to tame Dodge City, which was, I mean, people were shooting each other left and right. So he put up a sign at the city limits. All firearms will be surrendered to the sheriff, okay? Return to you when you leave. Did that violate the Second Amendment? The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Okay? Yes, it violates it. Okay, just like Washington, D.C. and Chicago passed laws that said you could not own a handgun in the city limits. There's so much violence, guys. Chicago this weekend. It's almost as bad as Afghanistan or Iraq. The south side of Chicago. Okay? New York murder rates are way up. Okay? They said no handguns. So there was this gentleman named Heller that lived in Washington, D.C. He's sitting in his home one night, watching TV. Somebody breaks into his house with a gun. Heller was breaking the law. He owned a gun, a handgun, and he shot the intruder. They arrested Heller for violating the city ordinance of no guns. He sued and went all the way to the Supreme Court. 2003. This is known as the Heller case or the Heller decision. And this U.S. Supreme Court, for the first time in nearly 100 years or 80 years, reaffirmed the right of private gun ownership. They said that law in Washington, D.C. that says you can't own a handgun is unconstitutional. So, as late as 2003, the Supreme Court has said you have the right to own a gun. Now, are there laws against guns? Can you bring a gun to school? That's a gun law. If you are a convicted felon, you are not allowed to own or possess a gun. It's against the law. It's another felony. Now, of all the shootings in Chicago this weekend, how many do you think were committed by people that were already convicted felons? Probably quite a few of them. The law not allowing felons to own a gun, has that stopped people from breaking the law and shooting people? No. So when you get a situation like what happened in Parkland, Florida, at the school, at the high school there, this is just a couple of years ago, you remember, hopefully, where a student went in and shot a bunch of people, okay? The reaction is we need new law. We need more law. But there's already a law that you can't bring a gun to school. And there's a law that says you can't buy a handgun until the age of 21. You can buy a shotgun at 18, but not a handgun at 18. Okay? So the kid's breaking multiple laws. You can pass all the laws you want. Is it going to stop it? And that's really what's the question here. So you always see a reaction after one of these mass shootings. Okay? You see a reaction when a cop shoots a black person. But where's the reaction? What's happening on the south side of Chicago? Now, one thing you could do is ban all guns. Now, if I'm a law-abiding citizen and you ban all guns, and I abide the law, I turn in my gun. What do criminals do? They disobey the law. So are they going to turn in their guns? Only the cops and the criminals now have guns. Which, when you walk in this school, you know nobody else has a gun, and you want to do harm to people, you know there's nobody there to stop you. Almost all of these mass shootings take place in gun-free zones, where they know nobody can stop them. So after Parkland, some people said, well, let's let teachers pack heat. Let's bring in retired veterans, or cops, to be at the school, which a lot of our public schools do have a resource officer, a police officer there, who is armed. Okay? Which gives some protection to the people, the inhabitants of the building, from a crazy person. Now, I don't want to pack heat. I mean, I just got a gun. I mean, I've fired guns before, and I fired my new gun at the range, and I'm a pretty good shot with my glasses on. Okay? But I don't want that. I have a temper. You haven't seen it. Hopefully you won't. Okay? But I don't want that. Now, would any of you have a problem with Mr. Lemony? Like the nicest guy ever, right? And he's been around guns his whole life. His dad was a cop. He's been hunting his whole life, you know. Would you have a problem if Mr. London had a gun in a safe so that he could maybe stop an active shooter? Real quick, while we're talking about active shooters, okay? You need to think about all 7 classes you're in. You have the option to run, hide, or fight, right? You want option 1. You're in a good room here for that. There's an active shooter in the 300 hallway. We go through that door right there, not that one. That one right over here. This door leads to Mrs. Lovelace's room. Right through there. You go out that to the 400 hallway, out the atrium. Okay? If there's a shooter in the 400 hallway, you go out this is what we do for fire drills. You go out this way, and and there's a staircase right over there, right? Not this staircase, the one right over there. That leads, there's a door that goes right outside right there. And you run. You don't walk. You run and get out of the building. Okay? So really, in this classroom, I don't think, they'll get on the intercom and tell us everything they know if they can. Okay? But the best option is to get out and just keep running. Actually, you're supposed to go over to St. Francis. Or if you're on that side of the building, over to Wilbur. Okay. Sucks we got to talk about that, right? But you need to pay attention to which room you're in and your fastest exit. Okay. And then the fight, obviously, if you're in certain rooms, you want to lock the door, and I would have everybody on this wall. So the person looking in the room couldn't see anybody in. And then we're going to fight. Take the desk and just, fight. This will work. These work well. Okay. Guns are scary, man. I get it. I mean, you talk about victims of crimes and of gun violence and so forth, people that live in high crime areas, you can see where people be like, hey, we need to get rid of these things. Okay? Kansas is an open carry state. So you can walk around with a gun. Okay. If criminals think you might have a gun, they might be less likely to attack you. Now, there's laws so for people that are have mental issues, right? That they can't buy a gun. One of the mass shootings we had, there was a guy in the Air Force got discharged, and he was a threat to himself and to other people. And the Air Force, somehow the message didn't get, because they have background checks, okay? Didn't get to the background check. The guy went and bought guns, and he shouldn't have been able to. Okay? Now, there's always a way to get a gun, even if you can't go through the background check. And you get them on the street, buy them off the black market, okay? Which a lot of that goes on in this country. If we enforce convicted felons can't have a gun, if we really enforce that, then we can get some of those guns out of the wrong people's hands. Okay? I'm never going to take a gun anywhere unless I feel threatened. And I'm certainly not going to point it at anybody. You know what I mean? I'm just going to use it for home defense, self-defense. So, yeah. All right. So, if you think, hey, look, guns are awful, and they are. There's murders every single day. 18-year-old shot yesterday in Wichita. Heard on the way here. Okay. Maybe you want to get rid of guns. Okay, you'd have to change the Constitution, which is doable. I mean, it's not likely, it's doable. Or you think we need more gun laws, then you want to say no. If you think we have enough gun laws, or maybe too many gun laws, say yes. Guys, automatic firearms are not allowed. You're not allowed to have one that goes, okay? You can't own those. Now, you can if you get a special license, okay? Very few people. The AR-15 looks like the M16, but it's no different than a deer hunting rifle. In fact, the AR-15 is one of the best self-defense weapons there is. And that's the one that looks like a military weapon, assault weapon. AR does not stand for assault rifle. Okay, it stands for the name of the company that makes it, which I can't remember off the top of my head. It's not an assault rifle, it's a rifle. An assault rifle is an automatic weapon, okay, that you can just spray bullets, which are illegal. Okay, they got rid of the bump stock, which was used in Las Vegas, which when you fire a gun, you get recoil, right? So the bump stock is something you put on the end of your rifle, and when it recoils, it allows you to pull the trigger fast. So it's like an automatic weapon. So they got rid of those. Okay. I mean, I never heard of a bump stock until the thing happened. But so more laws? Say no. Got enough laws? Too many laws say yes. Is that it? All right. What's next tomorrow? So you guys check out my video tomorrow. We're going to talk about hate speech. Hey, thanks for coming, guys. See you tomorrow.